The cardboard box sat open in the middle of my old bedroom, and I couldn't stop staring at it like it was a trap. Dust. Faded photographs. And that folded note I recognized immediately, even though I hadn't seen it in 11 years. My breath caught. Not from nostalgia. From fear. Because I knew exactly what that letter said before opening it, and I knew that reading it again would destroy the fragile calm I'd worked so hard to build. Outside, Savannah was still Savannah. The December sun fell over the church steeples like nothing had changed. But I had changed. Or at least that's what I kept telling myself every morning since I returned to my mother's house 3 days ago, carrying a suitcase full of wrinkled clothes and a photography career that crumbled in New York City like a house of cards. 32 years old, single, no contract, no apartment. Nothing I could show as proof that leaving Savannah had been worth it. "Olivia, did you bring down the boxes from the closet?" My mother's voice rose from the kitchen, firm and impatient. "Yes, Mom," I lied, because the box was still closed, and I was still sitting on the cold hardwood floor, knees against my chest and throat tight. I opened it slowly. First came photographs printed on matte photo paper, the kind we used to develop at the downtown studio because we didn't have printers at home. Emma and me in middle school uniforms. Emma laughing in front of Forsyth Park fountain. Emma with wet hair after the rain caught us walking to her house. Emma. Always Emma. And then I saw it. The note. It was folded in 4 perfect parts, as if someone had wanted to keep it forever but didn't dare frame it. The handwriting was mine. I recognized the clumsiness of my 16-year-old self, the blue ink that had run slightly in the lower corner. It said, "I promise that if I ever have the courage, you'll be the first to know. But if I don't, this note will be enough." Oh, I didn't remember writing it. Or maybe I did, but had preferred to forget. Because remembering hurt. Because remembering meant accepting that 11 years ago, I'd buried something I should never have buried, and now, with that box open and that shaky handwriting in front of me, everything came back like a wave that didn't ask permission. My phone buzzed and pulled me from the trance. A message. From her. "Olivia, did you make it to Savannah? My mom says your mom told her yes. Want to meet up?" The screen went dark on its own, and I kept staring at it as if I expected the words to change. They didn't. Subscribe now. YouTube prioritizes subscribers, and those who aren't subscribed miss out on future stories. I went down to the kitchen empty-handed. My mother was preparing pecan pie for the New Year's dinner, the sweet, buttery smell filling the entire house. She glanced at me sideways, drying her hands on the embroidered apron she only wore on special occasions. "Did you find anything interesting?" "Nothing important," I said, though my voice sounded hollow. She didn't insist. She never insisted. But her silence said more than any question. She walked to the sink, rinsed a plate, then spoke without looking at me. "Emma came by yesterday. She left an envelope for you." My stomach flipped. "An envelope?" "It's on the hallway table." I left the kitchen before she could say anything else. The envelope was white, no name, just my initial written in black marker in the center. I opened it with trembling hands. Inside was an invitation printed on thick paper, with golden letters that shone under the hallway light. New Year's Eve party, the Morgan House, December 31st, 8 p.m. Come as you are, but come. Come as you are. Those 4 words hit me harder than everything else. Because Emma knew. She always knew. Since that afternoon in her room when I told her I liked someone but couldn't say who. Since that night on the rooftop when she asked why I'd never had a boyfriend and I changed the subject. Since that last time we saw each other before I left for New York City, when she hugged me longer than necessary, and I pulled away as if her closeness burned. Come as you are, not as I should be, not as my mother expected, not as society demanded, as I am. I folded the invitation and tucked it in my back pocket. I went up to my room, locked the door, and sat in front of the mirror. The woman staring back at me had deep, dark circles, messy brown hair, and an expression I didn't know if it was exhaustion or surrender. I wondered if Emma would recognize me, if she'd see in me the girl she let go 11 years ago, or just a stranger who came back because she had nowhere else to go. I grabbed my camera, an old Nikon I bought with my first savings when I was 18. The lens was scratched, the shutter made a strange noise, but it still worked. I turned it on and pointed it toward the window. Outside, Christmas lights blinked on the neighbors' porches. Happy families. Dinners being prepared. Laughter heard through the walls. I took a photo, then another, and another, because that was the only thing I knew how to do when everything else was falling apart. Capture moments that didn't belong to me and pretend that was enough. That night, I couldn't sleep. I lay awake, staring at the ceiling, listening to the distant sound of fireworks some neighbors were already setting off. I thought about Emma, about her easy laugh, about how she always knew what to say when I couldn't find the words, about how she looked at me when she thought I wasn't noticing, with that mix of tenderness and something else I never dared to name. And I thought about the bet. That damn bet we made when we were 17, sitting on her rooftop with a shared bottle of sweet tea and the city stretching before us like a map of infinite possibilities. I bet you'll kiss someone you really like first, Emma had said, with that mischievous smile that always disarmed me. What about you? I asked, trying to sound uninterested. I already know who I'm going to kiss, she answered, and her eyes locked onto mine with an intensity that made me look away. We never talked about it again. Never. As if by not mentioning it, we could pretend it hadn't happened. But now, with the invitation in my pocket and that box full of memories in my room, the bet came back like a ghost that never really left. I got up from bed and walked to the window. Savannah slept under a clear sky, the stars shining with a clarity I never saw in New York City. I thought about running away, about making up an excuse, about telling my mother I felt sick and couldn't go to the party. But I knew I wouldn't, because I'd been running for 11 years, and that hadn't changed anything, because Emma was still there, waiting, and because a part of me, the part that kept that note folded in 4 perfect parts, wanted to know what would happen if for once in my life I stopped running. December 31st dawned with a gray sky that threatened rain, but couldn't decide to release a single drop. I spent the morning helping my mother with dinner preparations, peeling potatoes and cutting vegetables in silence while she talked about the neighbors, about the church offerings, about everything except the only thing that mattered, the fact that I was returning after 11 years with nothing to show except failure. "Are you going to the Morgans' party?" she finally asked, while stirring the collard greens in the cast-iron pot. "I think so." She nodded, without looking at me. "Emma always asked about you. Every time I saw her." The words hung in the air, heavy like the steam rising from the pot. I didn't respond. I didn't know what to say. My mother kept cooking as if she hadn't said anything important, but I felt something move inside me, something uncomfortable and painful that had been asleep for years. At 7 in the evening, I locked myself in the bathroom to get ready. I showered with hot water until the mirror fogged up completely. I dried off slowly, avoiding looking at myself. I chose simple clothes, dark jeans, a white cotton blouse, and a denim jacket I'd bought at a flea market in Brooklyn. Nothing special. Nothing that said I made an effort. Because if I looked too dressed up, Emma would know, and I wasn't ready for her to know. I left the house at 10 to 8, The streets of the historic district were lit with Christmas lights, hanging from posts and balconies. Families walked toward the cathedral for New Year's Eve Mass. Street vendors offered hot pecans, pralines, and boiled peanuts on the corners. Savannah vibrated with that unique energy that only appeared in December, when the city filled with people returning home for the holidays and the squares became stages for reunions and goodbyes. The Morgan house was a 10-minute walk away. A historic Victorian home with a wraparound porch, white columns, and a mahogany door that had always been open to me. When I arrived, music was already playing from inside. Soul, R&B, some classic rock. The sound mixed with laughter and conversations spilling through the open windows. I rang the doorbell. No one answered. I rang again. The door burst open and Mrs. Morgan appeared, wearing a bright red dress and a smile so big it made me feel guilty for all the years I didn't come to visit. "Olivia, oh my dear, it's been so long." She hugged me hard, smelling of gardenia perfume and red wine. I hugged her back, feeling something inside me loosen. Come in. Emma's upstairs, on the rooftop deck. You know how she is, always organizing everything until the last minute." I climbed the stairs slowly, touching the polished wooden banister I'd touched 1,000 times before. The walls were full of family photographs. Emma as a child at her first communion, Emma at her high school graduation, Emma smiling on some beach I didn't recognize. I wasn't in any of those photos. As if I'd never existed. As if those 11 years had erased me from her story. The rooftop deck was decorated with string lights hanging from the pergola. There were folding tables covered with white tablecloths, plastic chairs, a long table with food and drinks. And at the back, next to the railing overlooking the street, was Emma. She didn't see me immediately. She was facing away, adjusting a flower arrangement on one of the centerpieces. She wore a fitted black dress that reached her knees, flat sandals, and her hair loose falling over her shoulders. She looked different, older, more confident, as if the years had polished her instead of breaking her. I took a step toward her and a floorboard creaked. She turned around and looked at me. The world stopped. I don't know how long it was before either of us said something. It could have been a second. It could have been an eternity. I only know that in that moment, with the colored lights reflecting in her dark eyes and the music playing below like a distant echo, everything I'd tried to forget came rushing back. "Olivia," she finally said, and her voice sounded exactly as I remembered it. Soft, warm, dangerous. "Hi, Emma." She walked toward me slowly, as if afraid I'd disappear if she moved too fast. She stopped 3 feet away, close enough that I could see the small wrinkles at the corners of her eyes, far enough that the space between us felt like an abyss. "I thought you weren't going to come," she said. I almost didn't. She smiled, a small, sad smile that didn't reach her eyes. "I'm glad you did." There was an uncomfortable silence. I put my hands in my jacket pockets. She crossed her arms over her chest. Neither of us knew what to say. Or maybe we knew exactly what to say, but didn't have the courage to do it. "How have you been?" she finally asked. "Fine, more or less. You know." "No, I don't know. That's why I'm asking." Her tone wasn't accusatory, but it hurt anyway. Because she was right. She didn't know. Because I'd disappeared without giving her explanations. Because I'd blocked her number after the first 6 months in New York City. Because every message from her reminded me of what I'd left behind. "I broke up with my girlfriend 3 months ago," I said suddenly, not knowing why. Maybe because I needed her to know that I'd also tried to move on, that I hadn't stayed frozen in time, waiting for something that was never going to happen. Emma blinked. Something crossed her face. Surprise? Pain? Relief? "I'm sorry," Don't be. It was for the best. Did she know? Know what? Emma looked directly into my eyes. That you were never completely hers. The air became dense, heavy, hard to breathe. I wanted to respond. I wanted to deny it. I wanted to tell her she was wrong. But the words didn't come out, because she was right. Because every time I'd kissed someone else, I'd closed my eyes and imagined other lips, other eyes, another laugh. Olivia, don't. I cut her off, taking a step back. Don't do this. Do what? This. Acting like you know what happened. Like you have the right to judge me. I'm not judging you. Then what are you doing? Emma stepped closer. 1 step. 2. Until she was so close I could smell her perfume. Jasmine and something citrus I didn't recognize. I'm trying to understand why you left without saying goodbye. Why you stopped answering my messages. Why you erased me from your life like I never meant anything. You meant too much. The words came out before I could stop them. That's why I left. The silence that followed was deafening. Emma opened her mouth, but before she could say anything, the rooftop door opened, and a group of people came up laughing and talking at the same time. Guests, friends, people I didn't know who looked at us with curiosity before greeting us. Emma stepped away. She composed a professional smile and became the perfect hostess, receiving hugs and toasting with glasses of sparkling wine someone had brought. I stayed on the sidelines watching. If this doesn't deserve a like, I don't know what does. The party grew quickly. In less than an hour, the rooftop was full of people. I recognized some faces. Classmates from middle school who'd gained weight or lost hair. Neighbors who no longer remembered my name but greeted me kindly. Emma's cousins who looked at me with curiosity. I poured myself a glass of wine and leaned against the railing, watching the city stretching before me. Savannah at night was beautiful. The church steeples gleamed under the streetlights. The Savannah River reflected the moon like liquid silver. The air smelled of gunpowder from the fireworks some families were already setting off. Everything was familiar and strange at the same time. Running away again? I turned. Emma was next to me with 2 glasses in her hands. She offered me one. I just needed air. We're on a rooftop. You know what I mean. She smiled and drank from her glass. We stayed silent, watching the city. The music played behind us, but it felt distant, as if we were in a bubble separate from the rest of the world. Do you remember the bet? She suddenly asked. My heart sped up. What bet? Don't pretend you don't know what I'm talking about. I drank from my glass to buy time. The wine was warm and slightly bitter. We were kids. It didn't mean anything. Are you sure? I didn't answer, because I wasn't sure. Because that bet had been the turning point, the moment when everything changed without either of us being ready to face it. Someone here still remembers, Emma said, nodding toward a group of people laughing near the food table. I recognized some of them. Rachel, who had been our classmate. Marcus, who lived in the house next door. And Sarah, Emma's cousin who had always been too curious for her own good. Sarah never forgets anything, Emma murmured. And lately she likes reminding everyone that we made that bet. Why? Emma glanced at me sideways. Because she thinks it would be fun to see what happens if we bring it back to life. Fear ran through me like an electric current. Emma, don't. I'm not going to do anything you don't want, she said softly. But I want you to know that if you decide to leave again, this time, I'm not going to wait for you. She walked away before I could respond, leaving me alone with my empty glass and a knot in my stomach that wouldn't go away. The night progressed. The music got louder. People drank more. Some danced in the center of the rooftop. Others sat at tables talking. I stayed at the railing, watching, feeling how time slipped through my fingers like sand. At 11:30, someone turned off the lights and turned on a screen connected to a projector. They were going to show a countdown to midnight. People started gathering in front of the screen, with glasses of sparkling wine in their hands and party hats on their heads. Emma was on the other side of the rooftop, talking to Sarah. Their eyes met mine for a second, before Sarah said something out loud. "Hey, does anyone remember the bet Emma and Olivia made in high school?" The group laughed. Some shouted yes. Others asked what it was about. Sarah raised her glass. "The first one to kiss someone they always denied loving." The shouts and laughter multiplied. Someone pointed at me. Someone else pointed at Emma. And suddenly, all eyes were on us. Emma didn't move. She just looked at me with those dark eyes that knew everything. And I, with my heart beating so hard I could hear it over the music, wondered if that night was going to be the beginning of something new, or the end of everything I'd been running from for 11 years. The silence that followed Sarah's comment was worse than any scream. All eyes remained on us, waiting for a reaction, a response, anything to feed the gossip that was already spreading like fire among the people. I felt the heat rising up my neck, how my hands clenched into fists inside my jacket pockets. I wanted to disappear. I wanted to run down those stairs and never come back. But my legs wouldn't move. Emma, however, smiled. A calm, controlled smile that revealed nothing. "Sarah, you're drunk," she said calmly, raising her glass. "And we all know that when you drink, you start making things up." "I'm not making anything up," Sarah protested, laughing. "You told me yourself years ago. You said you bet on who would—" "Sarah?" Emma's voice became firmer, though she kept smiling. "Let it go." There was something in her tone that made Sarah close her mouth. She drank from her glass and turned around, muttering something about people with no sense of humor. Conversations gradually resumed. Attention shifted to the screen where the countdown already appeared, 11:52 p.m. But I still felt the stares, the whispers, the knowing smiles of those who had understood exactly what Sarah was talking about, even though Emma had tried to deflect it. I moved away from the railing and walked toward the stairs. I needed to get out of there. I needed air, space, distance. But before I could go down the first step, a soft hand grabbed my arm. "Don't leave," Emma said in a low voice, so close I could feel her breath grazing my ear. "Let me go. Not until you tell me you're going to stay." I turned to face her. Her eyes were moist, shining under the colored lights. She wasn't crying, but she was close. "Why?" I asked her. "Why do you want me to stay?" "So everyone can keep making fun of us. So Sarah can keep reminding everyone of something that should never. So that for once in your life you stop running." She interrupted me, and her voice broke slightly. "So you stay and face what you feel instead of hiding behind excuses. You don't know what I feel. Then tell me." The music changed. Something slower, more melancholic. A ballad I vaguely recognized but couldn't name. Someone dimmed the lights again, and the rooftop plunged into a warm, intimate penumbra that made everything feel smaller, closer. Emma kept looking at me, waiting. Her hand still held my arm, soft but firm, as if she knew that if she let go, I'd disappear forever. "I can't do this," I whispered. "Do what?" "This. Whatever it is you're expecting me to do. I can't." "Why not?" "Because I'm scared." The words came out before I could stop them. Raw, honest, painful. Emma loosened her grip, but didn't let go. Her fingers slid down my arm until they found my hand. She took it gently, intertwining our fingers as if it were the most natural thing in the world. "I'm scared too," she admitted. "But I'm tired of letting fear decide for me." 11:55 p.m. The countdown continued on the screen. People started gathering, looking for partners, preparing for the midnight toast, traditions, rituals, good luck kisses, promises for the new year that were almost never kept. "Come with me," Emma said, pulling gently on my hand. I didn't ask where. I just followed her. We went up a narrow staircase that led to a higher section of the rooftop, a small storage room the Morgans used to keep tools and pots. Emma opened the door and made me go in. Inside, it smelled of damp earth and concrete. There was a small window overlooking the street, from where you could see the cathedral lit up in the distance. She closed the door behind us. The sound of the party became distant, muffled by the thick walls. "What are we doing here?" I asked. "Escaping," she answered with a sad smile. "Something you're very good at." "Emma, no. Let me talk, please." I leaned against the wall and waited. She stood in front of me, arms crossed and gaze fixed on the floor. "When you left for New York City, I thought it was because you wanted something bigger than Savannah," she began. "I thought it was for your career, for your dreams. And I understood, really. But then you stopped answering my messages. You stopped calling. And I realized it wasn't just about distance. It was because you were pulling away from me. On purpose. It wasn't personal." "How was it not personal?" Her voice rose. "We were best friends, Olivia. We grew up together. We told each other everything. And suddenly, nothing. Silence. As if I had meant nothing. I already told you that you meant too much. And what's that supposed to mean?" I took a step toward her, then another, until we were so close I could see the small freckles on her nose, the fine lines around her lips. "It means that every time I talked to you, you reminded me of what I couldn't have. It means that every message from you made me want to come back. And I couldn't come back because if I came back, I was going to do something stupid." "Like what?" "Like kiss you." The silence that followed was absolute. Not even the music could be heard, just our breaths, fast and uneven. Emma took a step toward me. "And what's stupid about that?" My back hit the wall. There was no more room to retreat. "Everything. It has everything stupid about it. Because you're you and I'm me. And this can't happen. It shouldn't happen." "Why not?" "Because I live in New York City. Because I'm broke. Because I don't have a job or an apartment or a future. Because you're afraid that if you kiss me, you won't be able to stop." Her words hit me like a punch in the stomach. I opened my mouth to deny it, but nothing came out. Because she was right. Because I'd spent 11 years running from that fear, from that desire, from that truth I'd buried so deep I thought it would never come out again. Emma raised her hand and placed it on my cheek. Her palm was warm, soft. Her thumb traced a slow line over my cheekbone. "Do you know how many times I imagined this moment?" she whispered. "How many times I wondered what it would be like to kiss you. How many nights I stayed awake hoping you'd come back and tell me you felt the same way I did." "Emma, don't. 11 years, Olivia. 11 years waiting. And now you're here, in front of me. And I'm still waiting." Outside, the shouting began. The countdown. 10, 9, 8. Time slowed down. Each second stretched as if the universe was giving me one last chance to make a decision, to choose. 7, 6, 5. Emma moved closer. So slowly I could stop her at any moment. So slowly that every millimeter felt like a question she didn't dare ask out loud. 4, 3, 2. I closed my eyes. 1. And then, at the exact moment the clock struck midnight, and all of Savannah exploded in shouts and fireworks and church bells, Emma kissed me. If any part of this story feels like your life, the hype button helps make sure it doesn't stay silent. It was soft at first, tentative, as if neither of us was sure this was real. Her lips brushed mine with a delicacy that broke me to pieces. She smelled of wine and jasmine and something that was uniquely her, something I'd forgotten and remembered at the same time. I opened my eyes. She did too. And in that instant, looking at her so close I could count each of her eyelashes, I knew there was no going back. I tangled my fingers in her hair and deepened the kiss. She let out a small sound of surprise that turned into a sigh. Her hands went down to my waist, pulling me until our bodies pressed completely together. The cold wall against my back, her warm body against mine. The world disappearing until only we two remained. I don't know how much time passed. It could have been a minute. It could have been an hour. I only know that when we finally separated, we were both breathless and trembling. Emma rested her forehead against mine. Her eyes remained closed. A tear rolled down her cheek. "Tell me you're not going to regret this," she whispered. "I don't know," I answered honestly. "I don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. I don't know if this was a good idea. I don't know anything except that I've wanted to do this since I was 17. She smiled, a real, complete smile that lit up her whole face. Me too. Outside, the party continued. People shouted, "Happy New Year," and hugged and drank and laughed. But inside that small, dusty room, with the smell of earth and concrete and jasmine, Emma and I stayed embraced in silence, listening to the accelerated beating of our hearts. "What now?" I asked. "Now we go back to the party, and we act like nothing happened. And tomorrow we'll see. I don't know if I can pretend nothing happened." "Then don't pretend. Just stay. Can you do that?" I nodded. Because for the first time in 11 years, staying didn't seem like the worst option. Emma took my hand and opened the door. The sound of the party hit us like a wave. Music, laughter, overlapping conversations. No one seemed to notice we'd disappeared. Or maybe they did, but decided not to say anything. Sarah was by the drinks table, refilling her glass. She saw us come out of the room and smiled in a way I didn't like. But before she could say anything, Emma ignored her and led me to the other side of the rooftop. "Do you want to dance?" she asked. "I'm not good at dancing." "Neither am I, but that never stopped us before." She was right. When we were kids, we used to dance in her room with the door closed, making up silly choreographies to songs that played on the radio. We laughed until our stomachs hurt. We took pictures with her cheap digital camera. We promised we'd never let anything change between us. And then we grew up, and everything changed. But now, with her hand in mine and the music wrapping around us, it felt like maybe, just maybe, we could recover something of what we'd lost. We danced. Not well, not coordinated, but we danced. And as we did, I realized that some people were watching us. Rachel, Marcus, a couple of Emma's cousins whispering among themselves. But Emma didn't seem to care. She kept moving to the rhythm of the music, eyes closed and a smile on her lips. I, on the other hand, couldn't stop thinking about what would happen when the night ended. When the lights went out and people went home, and we were alone again, without the music or the wine or the excuse of midnight. What would we do then? Would I run away again, or would I finally stay? I woke up with a pounding headache and a dry mouth. Sunlight streamed through my bedroom window with cruel intensity, illuminating the mess I'd left the night before. Clothes thrown on the floor, shoes in different corners, the jacket hanging from the desk chair. I lay motionless in bed, staring at the ceiling, trying to reconstruct the fragments of what had happened after the kiss. I remembered dancing, drinking more wine than I should have, avoiding the curious looks from Sarah and her friends. I remembered Emma laughing while telling me about some new project she was organizing, though I didn't remember the details. And I remembered walking back home around 3 a.m, with Emma insisting on accompanying me even though we were only 10 minutes apart. We'd said goodbye at my front door. A long hug. A "see you soon" whispered against my ear. And then she'd left, walking through the empty streets of Savannah as if carrying the light with her. We hadn't kissed again. I got up slowly, feeling every muscle in my body protest. I went to the bathroom, washed my face with cold water, and looked at myself in the mirror. The woman staring back had messy hair, deep dark circles, and an expression that oscillated between panic and something I didn't dare call happiness. What had I done? What had we done? My phone buzzed on the nightstand. A message. Emma. Good morning. How are you feeling? I stared at the screen for a full minute before responding. Me. Hungover. Emma. Haha. Me too. Want to get breakfast? I know a place. Me. I don't know if that's a good idea. The 3 dots appeared and disappeared several times before her response arrived. Emma. Why not? Me. Because I need to think. Emma. About what? Me. About what happened. Emma. Do you regret it? The question hit me like a bucket of cold water. Did I regret it? I didn't know. Or maybe I did know but didn't want to admit it, because regretting meant accepting I'd made a mistake, and not regretting meant accepting that everything was about to change. Me. I don't know. Emma. Then let's have breakfast and talk. No pressure, just talk. It took me 5 minutes to respond. Me. Give me an hour. I showered, dressed in the first thing I found in the closet, and went down to the kitchen. My mother was sitting at the table, drinking coffee and reading the newspaper. She looked at me over her reading glasses. What time did you get home last night? Late. Did you have fun? I guess. She nodded and returned to the newspaper, but I could feel her gaze on me while I poured coffee. She didn't say anything else. She never said anything else. But her silence was eloquent. I'm going out for breakfast, I announced. With Emma? My hand stopped halfway between the cup and my lips. How? Because I know you, Olivia, she said without looking up from the newspaper. And because Emma came looking for you 3 times while you were gone. You don't need to be a detective to put 2 and 2 together. I didn't respond. I drank my coffee standing up, leaning against the counter, feeling how the liquid's heat spread through my chest, but didn't reach the cold knot in my stomach. Mom. You don't have to explain anything to me, she interrupted me gently. Just be careful. Savannah is a small town, and people talk. I know. Do you? This time she did look up. Because it doesn't seem like you know. Not when you disappear for 11 years and come back like nothing happened. Not when... When what? I cut her off, feeling frustration rising in my throat. Say what you want to say. My mother took off her glasses and looked directly into my eyes. Not when you're playing with the feelings of a girl who never stopped waiting for you. Her words left me breathless. Not because they were cruel, but because they were true. I'm not playing with her. No? Then what are you doing? I don't know, I admitted, and my voice sounded small, defeated. I don't know, Mom. I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know what I want. I don't know anything. She sighed and got up from the table. She walked over to me and put her hand on my shoulder. Then figure it out, but do it fast, because Emma doesn't deserve to wait another 11 years. I left the house without saying anything else. The streets of the historic district were quiet at that hour of the morning. The day after New Year's was always like this, silent, slow, as if the entire city was recovering from the celebration. I walked aimlessly for a few minutes before my phone buzzed again. Emma, I'm at the Collins Quarter, having orange juice and waiting for you. The Collins Quarter was a small cafe near Bull Street, with rustic wooden tables and windows that looked directly onto the street. We'd gone there hundreds of times when we were teenagers, sharing an order of shrimp and grits and planning futures that never came true. When I arrived, Emma was sitting at a table by the window. She wore light jeans, a white cotton blouse, and her hair pulled back in a high ponytail. She looked rested, calm, as if she hadn't spent the entire night awake thinking about what had happened between us. "Hi," I said, sitting across from her. "Hi." We looked at each other for an uncomfortable moment. Then we both looked away at the same time. "I ordered biscuits and gravy," Emma said. "I hope you still like them." "I do." "Good." The waiter brought 2 steaming plates and placed them in front of us. We ate in silence for the first few minutes, the sound of silverware against plates filling the void neither of us knew how to fill with words. Finally, Emma put down her fork and looked at me directly. "Tell me what you're thinking." "That this is a mistake." It wasn't what I wanted to say. Or maybe it was. The words came out before I could filter them, raw and painful. Emma blinked. Something crossed her face, pain, maybe, or disappointment, before she composed a neutral expression. "A mistake?" "Not like that," I hurried to clarify. "Not you. Not what happened. Just everything. The timing, the place. Me coming back here without a plan. You waiting for me like what? Like the 11 years didn't happen. Like we could just pick up where we left off." "I don't want to pick up anything," Emma said with a firm voice. "I want to start something new. Something that has nothing to do with the past or what should have been. Something that's just ours. But I don't live here. Then stay. It's not that simple." "Why not?" Because I don't have a job. Because I don't have money. Because my life is in New York City, even if it's a life I don't want. Emma leaned forward, taking my hand on the table. "Then build a new life. Here, with me." Her touch was warm, firm, real. So real it scared me. "I can't ask you that." "You're not asking me. I'm offering it." "Emma, listen to me," she interrupted. "I know you're scared. I know this is complicated. I know Savannah isn't New York City, and that people are going to talk, and that your mother is worried, and that you'll probably regret kissing me as soon as the hangover wears off. But I also know that last night, when you looked at me before I kissed you, I saw something in your eyes that I'd been waiting 11 years to see." "What did you see?" "The Olivia I knew. The one who wasn't afraid to be who she was. The one who looked at me like I was the only person in the world." Tears threatened to come out. I held them back, gritting my teeth. "That Olivia doesn't exist anymore." "Yes, she does," Emma insisted. "She's just scared. And I understand why. But I want you to know that you're not alone. You don't have to face this alone. Not if you don't want to." I gently withdrew my hand. I wiped my face with the napkin, even though there were no tears to wipe. I need time. How much time? I don't know. Emma nodded slowly. She leaned back in her chair and drank her orange juice, looking out the window toward the street. Okay. Take the time you need. But I want you to know something. I'm not going to wait for you forever. Not because I don't want to, but because I can't. I already did it for 11 years, and it almost killed me. Her voice broke on the last word. She didn't cry, but I could see the effort it took her to stay composed. I'm sorry, I whispered. Don't be sorry. Just decide. Decide what you want. And when you know, tell me. Because I already decided. 11 years ago. And my decision hasn't changed. She got up from the table, left enough money to cover the bill, and left without looking back. I stayed sitting, staring at my half-eaten plate of biscuits and gravy, feeling how the world crumbled around me for the second time in 3 months. Outside, the cathedral bells began to ring, marking 10 in the morning. People started filling the square. Tourists with cameras, street vendors, families coming out of church. Life continued, indifferent to my existential crisis. I paid the bill and left the cafe. I had nowhere to go. I had nothing to do. Just walk. So I walked. I wandered through the streets of the historic district aimlessly. I passed by the Telfair museums, closed for the holiday. I passed by the Mercer Williams house, with its neoclassical columns and deteriorated facade. I passed by shops selling sweetgrass baskets and hand-woven textiles. Everything was familiar and strange at the same time. As if Savannah were a photograph of a past that no longer belonged to me. I ended up at Forsyth Park, the neighborhood where Emma and I used to spend Sunday afternoons looking for treasures in the used bookstalls. The cobblestone paths were empty, the fountain quiet. I sat on a bench and pulled out my camera. I took random photos of the fountain, of the oak trees draped in Spanish moss, of a stray dog sleeping under a tree, of nothing and everything, because that's what I did when I didn't know what else to do. Capture other people's moments and pretend that filled the void. My phone buzzed. A message from an unknown number. Unknown. Hi, Olivia. It's Sarah. We need to talk. It's about Emma. My stomach churned. I deleted the message without responding, but 5 minutes later, another one arrived. Sarah. I know you're ignoring me, but I really need to talk to you. It's important. Me. What do you want? Sarah. For you to know the truth. About why Emma never forgot you. About what happened when you left. Me. I'm not interested. Sarah. You should be interested. Because if you knew what she did for you, what she sacrificed, you wouldn't be treating her like this. My fingers trembled over the screen. Me. What are you talking about? Sarah. Meet me in an hour. Griffin Tea Room. If you don't come, I'll take it as you really don't care. The message left me frozen. What had Emma done? What had she sacrificed? And most importantly, did I really want to know? The Griffin Tea Room was hidden on a side street of the historic district, away from the tourist routes. It was a small place with exposed brick walls and dark wooden tables. The smell of fresh brewed tea filled the air. When I entered, Sarah was already there, sitting at a table in the back with a steaming cup in front of her. She saw me and raised her hand. She didn't smile. I walked toward her feeling how each step weighed more than the last. I didn't want to be there. I didn't want to hear what she had to say. But a part of me, the part that had been running for 11 years, needed to know. Thanks for coming, Sarah said when I sat down. I didn't come for you. I came because I need to understand what's going on. Fair. Then I'll be direct. Sarah drank her tea, looking at me over the edge of the cup. There was something in her eyes I hadn't seen before. It wasn't mockery or gossip. It was something more serious, heavier. "When you left for New York City, Emma was devastated for months," she began. "She stopped going out. She stopped talking to us. She'd lock herself in her room and spend hours looking at the photos you had together. Her parents were worried. We all were. I didn't know. Because you didn't want to know." Sarah interrupted me with a firm but not cruel voice. "Because you blocked her number. Because you decided it was easier to disappear than face what you felt." The words hit me, but I didn't deny them, because they were true. "One day, about 6 months after you left, Emma met someone," Sarah continued. "Her name was Jessica. She worked at an art gallery in Charleston. She was older than us, sophisticated, sure of herself. Everything Emma needed at that moment." My stomach contracted. I didn't want to hear this, but Sarah didn't stop. They started dating. Emma seemed to get better. She smiled again. "She went out with us, and we thought she'd finally forgotten you. And we were wrong. Because every time someone mentioned your name, she'd tense up. Every time we passed by places where you'd been together, she'd go quiet. And every time Jessica tried to get too close, Emma would put up an invisible barrier that no one else could see except me." Sarah paused. She drank more tea. She waited for me to say something, but I couldn't speak. I had a lump in my throat that wouldn't let me breathe. "Jessica proposed they move in together to Atlanta," Sarah continued. "She offered her everything: an apartment, a job at the gallery, a new life away from Savannah. And Emma was about to accept. She'd already packed her things. She'd already talked to her parents. She was ready to leave. What happened? Your mother came to visit her." The world stopped. "What?" "Your mother," Sarah repeated. "She went to Emma's house a week before she was going to leave for Atlanta. She told her you'd called, that you'd asked about her, that you wanted to know how she was but didn't dare contact her directly." "That's a lie," I said immediately. "I never called. I know," Sarah interrupted me. "Your mother lied. Emma found out later. But at that moment, when she heard you'd asked about her, she canceled everything. She told Jessica she couldn't leave. She gave up the opportunity, and she stayed here, waiting." Tears started rolling down my cheeks before I could stop them. "Why?" I whispered. "Why would my mother do that?" Sarah sighed. "Because she knows you better than you know yourself. Because she knew that if Emma left, you'd never come back. And because even though she'll never admit it, she wants you to be happy, even if that means lying." I wiped the tears with the back of my hand. My breathing was irregular, ragged. "Does Emma know my mother lied?" "Yes. She found out about a year later. Your mother confessed it to her. But by then it was too late. Jessica had already left, and Emma had already made the decision to stay. And she never told me?" "When was she going to tell you?" Sarah asked with a mix of frustration and compassion. "If you blocked her number, if you didn't answer her messages, if you did everything possible to erase her from your life." She was right. Everything Sarah was saying was true, and it hurt more than any lie. "Why are you telling me this now?" I asked. "Because last night I saw you kiss, and I saw Emma's face afterward, and I know she's about to do the same thing again. Sacrifice what she wants for you. But this time I'm not going to let her do it without you knowing what's at stake." Sarah leaned forward, looking directly into my eyes. "Emma has a job offer in Charlotte. a big corporate event planning company. They offered her triple what she makes here. They offered her an apartment, benefits, everything, and she was ready to accept, until they found out you were coming back to Savannah. I didn't know. Now, you know. So I'm going to ask you a very simple question, Olivia. Are you going to stay, or are you going to run away again and let Emma ruin her life waiting for you? The question hung in the air, heavy as a tombstone. I had no answer. Sarah got up from the table. Think about it, but don't take another 11 years. Because Emma doesn't have 11 more years to give you. She left without waiting for a response, leaving me alone with my cold tea and a weight in my chest that threatened to crush me. I left the cafe not knowing what to do. I walked aimlessly for hours. The sun began to set, painting the sky orange and pink. The streets filled with people leaving work, students going to evening classes, families strolling before dinner. I ended up in front of Emma's house. I hadn't planned to go there. My feet simply took me. The door was ajar. I could hear voices inside, laughter, the sound of plates clinking, a normal family dinner. I rang the doorbell. Mrs. Morgan opened the door. Her smile faded when she saw me. Olivia. Hello, Mrs. Morgan. Is Emma here? She hesitated, then nodded and stepped aside to let me pass. She's in her room. Second floor, first door on the right, like always. I climbed the stairs slowly. My hands were trembling. My heart was beating so hard I thought it would burst. I knocked on the door. Come in, Emma's voice said from inside. I entered. Her room was exactly as I remembered it. The walls painted light blue, the desk full of papers and colored pencils, the twin bed with the flowered bedspread, and on the walls, hundreds of photographs of us. Emma was sitting on the floor, surrounded by boxes. She looked at me with surprise when I entered. Olivia, what are you doing here? I talked to Sarah. Her expression changed. She closed the box she had in front of her and stood up. And what did she tell you? She told me what you did, what you gave up for me, what you keep giving up. Emma crossed her arms over her chest, a defensive posture. Sarah talks too much. Is it true? About Jessica? About Charlotte? She didn't answer. She just looked at me with those dark eyes that knew everything. Why? I asked, and my voice broke. Why did you do it? Why do you keep doing it? Because I love you, she answered with a simplicity that destroyed me. I've always loved you. Since we were 16 and you lent me your jacket when it rained. Since we stayed up all night talking about our dreams. Since you looked at me like I was the only person in the world. I took a step toward her, then another, until we were so close I could see the tears shining in her eyes. I can't ask you to sacrifice your life for me. You're not asking me. I'm choosing it. But you shouldn't. Who says what I should or shouldn't do? She interrupted me. You chose to leave. I chose to stay. You chose to run. I chose to wait. And now, if I want to choose to reject a job in Charlotte because I'd rather be here with you, that's my decision, not yours. Emma, but I need you to tell me something, she continued, and her voice trembled. I need you to tell me if all this is worth it. If you feel what I feel too. If you're going to stay, or if I'm going to spend the next 11 years waiting again. I looked at her, really looked at her, and I saw everything I'd tried to ignore for 11 years. The love in her eyes, the hope in her trembling smile, the fear that I'd hurt her again. And I made a decision. I'm going to stay, I said. and the words came out with a certainty I didn't know I had. I don't know how I'm going to make it work. I don't know if I'll get a job here. I don't know if my mother will understand. I don't know anything except that I don't want to spend the rest of my life wondering what would have happened if I'd stayed. Emma let out a sob. Or maybe it was a laugh. I'm not sure. All I know is that in the next second she was in my arms, crying against my shoulder while I held her like she was the only real thing in the world. "Tell me you're not lying," she whispered against my neck. "I'm not lying. Tell me you're not going to regret it tomorrow." "I don't know," I admitted honestly. "But I want to try, with you." She pulled back enough to look into my eyes. Then, with a softness that broke me to pieces, she kissed me. It wasn't like the midnight kiss. This was different, slower, deeper, more real. As if we were sealing a promise that we'd both been too afraid to make for too long. When we separated, we were both crying and smiling at the same time. "What now?" Emma asked. "Now we start. For real." The following days were a whirlwind of decisions, difficult conversations, and stolen moments of happiness. I told my mother I was going to stay in Savannah. I expected her to be surprised, to protest, to ask me how I planned to survive without a job or money. But she just nodded, as if she'd always known this was going to happen. "Are you going to stay with Emma?" she asked one night during dinner. "Eventually. First, I need to find a job, stand on my own 2 feet. That's good," she said, and her voice had something I didn't recognize immediately. Pride, maybe. "But don't run from happiness just because it scares you." Her words stayed with me during the following weeks while I looked for work. I sent my portfolio to galleries, photo studios, advertising agencies. Most didn't respond. Some said they didn't have the budget. But a small cultural magazine in Savannah offered me freelance work covering local events. It wasn't much, but it was a start. Emma declined the Charlotte offer. Not without conflict. She spent 2 nights without sleeping, reviewing the numbers, calculating what she was giving up. But in the end, when she signed the email declining the offer, she smiled with a peace I hadn't seen in her before. "Do you regret it?" I asked her while we were lying in her bed, with the lights off and the city sleeping outside. "No," she answered, intertwining her fingers with mine. "For the first time in a long time, I don't regret anything." Our families reacted better than we expected. Emma's mother hugged us both and told us she just wanted us to be happy. My mother was more reserved, but one afternoon she found me crying in the kitchen after reading a cruel comment on social media about us, and she hugged me without saying anything. Sometimes silence said more than words. Savannah, as Sarah had warned, talked. People always talked in small towns. Some neighbors looked at us with curiosity, others with disapproval. But there were also those who supported us in unexpected ways. Mrs. Henderson, the owner of the bakery where we bought pastries, started giving us discounts. Mr. Williams, who had a stationery store, gave us a photo album to keep our memories. Small gestures that reminded us we weren't alone. One February afternoon, while we were walking through the historic district holding hands, Emma stopped in front of an antique shop. "Do you remember this place?" she asked. "Of course. We used to come here on Sundays." "Do you remember what we found that one time?" It took me a second to remember. Then I smiled. "The Polaroid camera." "Exactly." Emma pulled me inside the store. The smell of dust and old paper greeted us. The owner, an elderly man with thick glasses, greeted us with a smile. "Are you looking for something special?" "Do you still have vintage cameras?" Emma asked. The man led us to a display case at the back of the store. There were several cameras, Polaroids, Brownie Kodaks, some Minoltas from the 70s. but Emma pointed to one in particular, a Polaroid SX70 in perfect condition. "Does it work?" I asked. "Yes, and I have film for it." Emma bought the camera and a pack of film. We left the store and went straight to Forsyth Park, the neighborhood where we'd sat so many times when we were teenagers. "Take a picture," Emma said, handing me the camera. "Of what?" "Of us. Of this moment. Of whatever you want to remember when we're old." I raised the camera. Emma came closer to me, resting her head on my shoulder. I extended my arm, adjusted the angle, and took the photo. The image came out slowly, revealing itself before our eyes. 2 women smiling. 2 women who had taken 11 years to find each other again. 2 women who had finally stopped running. "It's perfect," Emma said, looking at the photograph. "You're perfect." She laughed and kissed me, right there, in the middle of the park, not caring who saw us. And for the first time in my life, I didn't care either. Share this story if you believe love always finds its way back. The months passed. March came with unexpected rains that flooded the streets of the historic district. April brought festivals and parades that filled the city with color. May gave us magnolia flowers that climbed the colonial walls. My work at the magazine grew. I started covering more events, meeting people, building a network of contacts. Emma expanded her event planning business, partnering with a catering company that allowed her to take on bigger projects. It wasn't easy. There were bad days. Days when we argued about money, about the future, about silly things that felt huge in the moment. There were nights when I woke up with anxiety, wondering if I'd made the right decision. There were moments when Emma doubted, when she wondered if it would have been better to accept the Charlotte offer. But we always came back to each other. We always found our way back. One June night, while we were having dinner on her rooftop under a sky full of stars, Emma asked me, "Are you happy?" The question took me by surprise, not because I didn't know the answer, but because I never thought anyone would ask me. "Yes," I answered, and it was the first time in years I said it without hesitating. "I'm happy." She smiled. That smile that had made me fall in love when I was 16, and that still made me fall in love now. "Me too." We stayed silent for a while, listening to the distant sound of the city. Then Emma spoke again. "Do you know what day it is today?" "Thursday?" "It's June 6th. Exactly 6 months since we kissed for the first time." I hadn't remembered, but she had, because Emma always remembered the important things. "I have something for you," she said, pulling an envelope from her pocket. I opened it. Inside was a photograph, not the one we'd taken with the Polaroid. This was older, faded, wrinkled at the corners. It was of us at 17, sitting on this same rooftop, laughing about something I no longer remembered. And on the back of the photo, in that unmistakable handwriting, was written, "To the girl I always waited for, the one who was worth waiting for. I love you. E." Tears ran down my cheeks before I could stop them. "Emma, don't say anything," she interrupted me softly. "Just stay. Please, stay with me. Always," I promised. And this time I knew it was a promise I was going to keep. I kissed her under the stars of Savannah, on the rooftop where everything had begun, and where everything finally had found its place. The following months were a mix of routine and magic. Emma and I moved in together to a small apartment in the Victorian district. It wasn't big, it wasn't luxurious, but it was ours. We painted the walls white. We hung photographs in every free corner. We filled the kitchen with spices we never used, but that made us feel like responsible adults. We celebrated our first anniversary in December. We went back to her house's rooftop for the New Year's Eve party. This time, when the clock struck midnight, there were no doubts, no fear. Just us two, kissing while Savannah exploded in lights and sounds around us. Sarah took a photo of us at that moment. When we saw it later, we both laughed. Because in that image you could see everything. The love, the happiness, the certainty that we'd found what we'd been looking for all along. In February of the following year, Emma received another job offer, this time from a company in Nashville. The pay was excellent, the opportunities infinite. But when she told me, she did it with a calm smile. "What are you going to do?" I asked her, though I already knew the answer. "I'm going to stay," she said, taking my hand, "because everything I need is here. But it's a great opportunity." "You're my great opportunity," she interrupted me, "and I'm not going to make the mistake of letting you go again." I didn't argue. I just hugged her and thanked her silently for choosing me, over and over again. Because that's what love was, in the end. Not the grand gestures, not the impossible promises, just the daily decision to stay, to choose the other person even when it was difficult, even when there were other options. And we chose each other every day. In March, my work at the magazine became a full-time position. The salary wasn't spectacular, but it was enough. Enough to pay rent. Enough to save a little. Enough to build a life. Emma organized the wedding of Mrs. Henderson's daughter, the one from the bakery. It was a beautiful event in the garden of a plantation outside Savannah. I took the photos, and while I reviewed them afterward, I realized I'd finally found my style, capturing real moments, real love, real happiness. No more photographs of other people's moments. Now I was capturing my own story. One April afternoon, while we were walking through the historic district, Emma stopped in front of the cathedral. "Do you remember when we used to sit on those benches and talk about everything?" she asked. "Yes." "Do you remember what we talked about?" "About our dreams, about what we wanted to be when we grew up." "And did you achieve it?" she asked me, looking directly into my eyes. "Did you achieve what you wanted?" I thought about the question, about the 17-year-old girl who wanted to be a famous photographer in a big city, who wanted to travel the world and capture extraordinary moments. And then I thought about the 33-year-old woman who lived in Savannah, working for a local magazine, sharing a small apartment with the woman she loved. "Yes," I answered, and it was the most honest truth I'd said in my life. I achieved exactly what I wanted. It just took me 11 years to realize it. Emma smiled, and in that moment, with the April sun illuminating her face and the cathedral behind us, I realized something. I hadn't come back to Savannah because I'd failed in New York City. I'd come back because Savannah had always been my home, and Emma had always been my destiny. The rest of that year passed in a blur of everyday happiness, small moments that became precious memories, slow Sunday breakfasts, nighttime walks through the historic district, movie nights on the couch, silly arguments about what to have for dinner, even sillier reconciliations that ended in long kisses. In December, for our second anniversary, Emma gave me a gift. It was a photo album, but not just any album. It was the album we'd started when we were 17 and never finished. I opened it with trembling hands. The first pages were full of old photographs, us in middle school and high school, at parties and field trips I'd almost forgotten. And then came the new pages, photographs from the last 2 years, of us in the apartment, on the rooftop, at the cafe, at Forsyth Park. Moments Emma had captured without me noticing. On the last page, there was an envelope. "Open it," Emma said, and her voice trembled slightly. I opened it. Inside were 2 things. The note I'd written when I was 16, the one that said, I promise that if I ever have the courage, you'll be the first to know. And below it, a new note in Emma's handwriting. You had the courage, and I had the patience. And now we have this. A life together. A life we choose every day. I love you, Olivia. I always loved you. I always will love you. Will you marry me? I looked up. Emma was kneeling in front of me with a velvet box in her hand. Inside was a simple silver ring with a small blue stone. It's not much, she said quickly. I know it's not a big diamond or anything fancy, but it's perfect, I interrupted her, crying and laughing at the same time. You're perfect. And yes, I want to marry you. I kissed her before she could say anything else. And as I did, I felt how all the broken pieces of my life finally found their place. We got married in June of the following year. It was a small ceremony on her house's rooftop, with only our families and closest friends. We wore simple white dresses. We exchanged vows we wrote ourselves. And when the justice of the peace declared us married, all of Savannah applauded. Or at least, that's what it felt like. That night, while we danced under the stars with the city spread below us, Emma whispered in my ear, "Are you happy?" "More than happy," I answered. "I'm complete." And it was true, because after 11 years of running, I'd finally found the place where I belonged. It wasn't New York City with its bright lights and empty promises. It was Savannah, with its cobblestone streets and starry sky and illuminated cathedral. It was this small apartment with walls full of photographs and a kitchen full of spices we never used. It was this woman who looked at me like I was the only person in the world. It was this love that had waited 11 years to bloom, and it was worth every second of waiting. The years that followed were good, not perfect. Nobody has a perfect life, but they were ours. We had difficult moments, arguments about money, worries about the future, days when the world seemed too heavy. But we also had moments of pure happiness. Short trips to Charleston and Hilton Head, dinners at cheap but delicious restaurants, long nights talking about everything and nothing, slow mornings in bed, in no hurry to get up. My photography career grew. I started working for more magazines. I mounted a small exhibition at a local gallery. I wasn't famous, but I was respected, and that was enough. Emma opened her own event planning company. At first, it was difficult. There were months when she barely made enough to cover expenses. But little by little, the company grew. And now she had a small team and a list of clients that kept expanding. We were happy. Not in the fairy tale sense, but in the real, everyday, imperfect sense. And that was more than enough. One December afternoon, 5 years after our wedding, we were sitting on the rooftop of our house. We'd bought the house next to her parents', watching the city. "What are you thinking about?" Emma asked. "About the bet," I answered. She laughed. "Do you still think about that?" "Sometimes. Did you win or did I win?" Emma looked at me with those dark eyes that still made me feel like I was the only person in the world. "I think we both won," she said. "Because the kiss wasn't the end of the bet. It was the beginning of everything else." She was right. As always. I kissed her under Savannah's starry sky, on the rooftop where everything had begun, where everything had grown, where everything had found its place. And as I did, I thought about the 21-year-old girl who had run away because she was afraid. And I thanked her silently, because if she hadn't run away, I never would have learned what it really meant to come home. And Emma had always been my home. Time continued its natural course. The seasons changed. Savannah remained Savannah, beautiful, chaotic, full of life. Our life filled with small routines that became traditions. Breakfasts at the Collins Quarter on Sundays, walks through Forsyth Park on Saturdays, dinners on the rooftop on Fridays. And at some point, without us realizing it, we stopped measuring time in years and started measuring it in moments. The moment Emma surprised me with a trip to Savannah for my birthday. The moment we adopted a stray cat that became part of our family. The moment we won our first award together. She for organizing the best cultural event of the year. Me for capturing the best photographs. The moment we sat on the rooftop and realized we'd built exactly the life we wanted. It wasn't the life I'd imagined when I was 17. It was better. Because it was real. Because it was ours. Because we were together. And that was all that mattered. One New Year's Eve night, 10 years after that first kiss, we went back to her parents' house rooftop for the annual party. Sarah was there, now married with 2 children, Rachel and Marcus too, and dozens of people who had been part of our lives in different ways. When the clock approached midnight, Emma took my hand and led me to the same storage room where we'd kissed for the first time. "What are we doing here?" I asked, laughing. "Remembering," she said, "and celebrating." Outside, the countdown began. 10, 9, 8. Emma looked at me with those eyes I knew better than my own. "You know what?" she said. "I won the bet." "How so?" "Because I kissed the person who always denied loving first. You. And look where we are now. 7, 6, 5. I smiled. Because she was right, as always. 4, 3, 2. "I love you," I told her. "I love you too." 1. And then, exactly like 10 years before, we kissed while Savannah exploded in celebration around us. But this time it was different. This time there was no fear, no doubts, no unanswered questions, just us two, and a whole life ahead. When we came out of the room, everyone applauded. Sarah shouted something about "finally," and Rachel took a photo that we'd later frame and hang in our living room. The rest of the night passed in a blur of music and laughter and hugs, but at some point, around 3 in the morning, Emma and I snuck away. We walked through the empty streets of the historic district, holding hands, in silence. We ended up in front of the cathedral. The Christmas lights were still on, reflecting off the colonial facades. The air smelled of gunpowder and night flowers. "Do you know what's the best part of all this?" Emma asked. "What?" "That when we were teenagers and made plans about the future, we never imagined this. We never imagined we could have a life together. And now here we are, living something that back then seemed impossible." She was right. Back then, 2 girls in love in Savannah didn't have a visible future. There were no examples, no marked paths, just fear and hope in equal parts. But we'd found the way, not because it was easy, but because we chose it, every day, over and over again. "Thank you," I told her. "For what?" "For waiting for me, for not giving up, for choosing me even when I didn't know how to choose myself." Emma kissed me softly. "I'll always choose you," she whispered against my lips. "In this life and in all the ones that come after." And while we stood there, under Savannah's starry sky, with the cathedral behind us and a whole life ahead, I knew with absolute certainty that I'd found my place in the world. It wasn't a physical place. It was a person. It was Emma. It had always been Emma. And it always would be. If you want the continuation of this story, write it in the comments, because that's the only way I'll know what you want. And don't forget that YouTube only prioritizes subscribers. So subscribe now so you don't miss the next story that will make you believe in love and in second chances. This is just the beginning.